Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Rigel, and in this corner of the internet I make design and lifestyle related videos. If any of those topics interest you, consider subscribing and hit that bell for notifications. For today's video, I'm going to be designing an entire brand from scratch. Now, in my previous design videos, I've kind of redesigned logos and I've even redesigned an aspect of a brand. I've also, I believe in my last design video, I made a logo from scratch. So I just kind of thought, well, why not I just take this a step further, and instead of just designing a logo from scratch, I could just make a new brand from scratch. So that's what I'm going to be doing today. I've been kind of thinking about this video for a while now, making a brand from scratch, but I've never gotten myself around to do so, just because of the type of brand I want to focus on. I kind of wanted it to match with the season, I guess, and now that we're in the summer months, I thought that, now's the time to do it. For this business brand that I'm going to be designing from scratch, it is going to be a skincare line. Now, you might be wondering, Rigel, why are you waiting until the summer months? I don't see a correlation between the two of being skincare and summer. In my head, it makes sense. I'm going to explain it to you. You might not exactly buy this, but I don't know. This is just how my brain works, okay? I thought about the summer months, being out in the sun a lot and, tropical vibes, all that stuff. The biggest thing I thought in my head was sunscreen. See, this is where this whole skincare line comes up, because I thought, oh, you need to protect your skin, so you're going to be wearing sunscreen to, block the UV rays. But I didn't really want to focus on sunscreen. I thought more of facial cleansers and moisturizers and toners and the whole gist of what comes into skincare. I'm also pretty interested in skincare. It's kind of like a little fun self-care routine situation. So I was just like, okay, you know what? I'm going to do this. I want to make a skincare brand from scratch and see what I could come up with. Since this is just a fun project that we're going to be doing together, and it's not me working directly with a client or anything, because this entire business is just fake and coming off the top of my head, I'm not going to be as much of a stickler, I guess, while I'm designing, and I'm not going to really have that many different logo alterations and different color palettes to choose from that I normally would with working with a client. I'm just going to be kind of designing as we go, and I'm more or less going to stick with just the one style. But this is a design process and we're kind of going together, so I do feel like there could be a possibility that maybe there might be a second alteration for a logo, but I have more of an inclination that we're just going to be sticking with one. I have a few ideas in my head and I'm kind of ready to just jump right in and start designing with you guys, so I think we are going to do that right now. But yeah, we are just going to be designing as we go, basically, and it's just going to be a little bit chill and just us hanging out, having fun.
So, the first thing in creating a brand from scratch is actually coming up with a name for it. I wanted this to be an all-natural, organic, cruelty-free, sustainable skincare brand, and I kind of wanted it to be a little bit more of a high-end brand also for the products that they sold. So I kind of just went on this business name brand generator that had a lot of options for me to choose from. They made sure that these were names that hadn't been taken yet by a company. I kind of leafed through them pretty briefly, going through 5 tabs at least at most, which gave me still a plethora to choose from, but I ended up sticking with the name Eden. It just kept glaring in my mind, so I decided to roll with it. I feel like Eden really encompasses the whole sense of how I'm trying to get this brand to convey. Eden is a paradise sense, basically. It is a place of pristine or abundant natural beauty. At least that's what Merriam-Webster dictionaries tells me. And so I thought that that name was a perfect match. It fits organic, natural, also makes you feel like you're in paradise. So I thought, applying the skincare on makes you feel like you're in paradise. After I finally found the name, I just went on Pinterest to just kind of look for inspiration. Since I did say it's the summertime, I ended up looking at kind of beachy paradise inspiration, as well as having kind of that Zen aesthetic, to have that peacefulness when putting on the skincare products. I also started pooling some of the color palettes. It kind of would give me some ideas of how I want this brand to go in the direction of as well. And once I looked through all of the inspiration of design and all the different types of elements that I wanted the overall brand to have, I ended up putting everything into a mood board. So as you can see here, I stuck with 3 earth tone type of colors over there in the top left hand corner. I have some images that I want to kind of show what the aesthetic and the feel of the skincare brand is all about, being Eden. And I put some words on the side, along with having some sans serif and serif fonts that maybe I'll use later on within the brand. So I have the words simple, clean, modern, earthy, calm, and balanced. Now, while I was also coming up and making this mood board, I also thought of a lot of the organic shapes within this brand and thinking about the word Eden and kind of my own sense of design style. I thought of the Art Nouveau movement a lot again, because the Art Nouveau movement is really focused on organic shapes as well as things in nature, and it also has that whiplash line that I'm really into in some of my designs. So I went ahead, last minute decision, I thought about incorporating the Art Nouveau elements into the mood board that I already had, so I went ahead and looked at some inspiration on that also on Pinterest. Alright, so let's move to my sketchbook. So I'm just writing down all of the words that I had written down on my mood board, but I also added whimsical, luxe, and minimal to all the words that I wanted to encompass Eden, adding that whimsical from the Art Nouveau period, and just making sure I know it's a higher brand and I kind of want that minimalist look. So I started out with working on the logo. I kind of already had an idea of how I wanted it to look like, so I didn't really focus on it too much. I was thinking of having a typeface that had that Art Nouveau feel, especially in the E area, and just kind of like changing up the font, I guess, just so it's a little bit more pronounced and different from the original look for later. So yeah, after I did the 3 different possible logo designs, I went ahead and just started drawing out different little illustrations that I can possibly use in some of the packaging for later. A lot of the botanical stuff and floral designs. Then I kind of went back on to play with the logo, but more on the emblem of the logo, just having the E by itself and kind of having some decorative elements to it, trying to see if it looked nice on its own, kind of like an alternate logo in a sense for Eden. After I finished playing around with those, and it kind of seemed like I had one in mind, unless I just didn't think it was working, I went back and I started illustrating again, just different types of doodles that may or may not be added later on when I started working on the computer. Again, I played with floral petals. I also went ahead and made different swooshing lines that I thought maybe showed the feeling of peace, and did a lot of swooping curves and organic shapes that matches with the whole natural and paradise-like feel, along with Art Nouveau inspiration. And going back on the back page of my sketchbook, I just kept trying to think of different ideas for different types of tropical plants as well, that might fit well later on, trying to incorporate it with packaging and other design deliverables that I might end up working on later down the road. I was trying to brainstorm other ideas other than just focusing on plants, so I also tried making kind of like different little patterns, abstracting shapes really, and simplifying the nature of how it looks. Most of these illustrations I was just trying to come up with from the top of my head. I tried using some references, but most of these I just kind of did by memory. Which, you know, may or may not have been a good idea. I don't know. It's up to you to decide that.
Alright, so I have a lot of ideas that I've kind of drawn out and listed down in here. Didn't really work too much on the logo, just because I kind of already have a set logo in my head that I want to do already, where I'm basically going to modify a certain typeface that's going to be very Art Nouveau-like, while still being readable enough. And then trying to add in the Art Nouveau whimsical feel. I've been looking around, you know, it has a lot of organic shapes, lots of, I can't think of the word right now, but it's kind of like that ribbon feel. So I've been kind of going around trying to see if maybe the E would be good with this type of border. I really like this design, so I want to incorporate it into you know, the logo and some of maybe the brand packaging, or any other types of marketing collateral that I need to work into, that I feel like I want to do for the brand. Other than focusing on the logo and, you know, maybe playing around with an iconography, or just having the E as a stamp. I want to kind of have some minimal botanical like patterns going around on some of the packaging for the brand. So this flower right here kind of looks nice, that I want to try and play with. This over here, what I was thinking of is just kind of making this side symmetrical on the left side to mirror that effect. So I might do this one, not entirely sure yet. I was also playing with kind of a pebble pattern, because in my mood board I did include rocks, and it does have that whole Zen and harmony feel. So I might do like little tiny abstracted rocks for some of the patterns on the packaging. I also like the way that I had made this type of leaf summer plant, so I might include that one. And I also went ahead and tried different variations of abstracting the rocks with these two patterns here, as well as here. So I might do something with that. I'm not entirely sure how I feel about this plant here, but it does pass enough for me to want to play around, should I feel like this doesn't make the cut, or neither does, you know, this flower doesn't do that well. I want to try and make this, you know, minimal as possible, just to have that luxury feel really move forward. So I think what we have is enough. I feel like there's enough information and different design elements that I can play with for this mock-up brand, so I feel like it's ready to move onto the computer.
Okay, so we are now on Adobe Illustrator on my laptop. I'm just pulling up the colors from the mood board onto my artboard to work on, and I've also pulled up 3 different fonts that I got on my Adobe fonts that matched the whole style that I was trying to go for this brand. Now I'm just pretty much arranging all of the fonts in the way that I had for the 3rd logo in my sketchbook. And after that, I started to kind of play around with the ease in all the fonts to match my logo designs that I had in my sketchbook even better. So I just kind of altered the typeface of each one. With the second one, since it was spaced out in comparison to the other 2 fonts, I wanted a better flow of the word Eden, so I just kind of arranged some of the text to go together and connect. And after looking at all the 3 different options that I had of the fonts, I thought that the second option was the best for how I wanted the logo to look. It really matched with all of the words that I had put in my mood board, and I thought that the boldness of the nature of the font just seemed to stand out a lot more in comparison to the other 2, and I like this one a lot better. So I tried the logo in different color options from the palette that I had, and after putting the 3, I kind of felt like I needed maybe secondary colors, so I went ahead and I tested it out. I'm pulling some of the colors from the mood board and seeing if maybe that would also look nice. So I have the main logo done, and I've decided to kind of mess around with different variations of the logo. So in this one, I'm working on the emblem logo. I am going into my sketchbook, I looked at it, and I'm just pulling one of the designs that I did from earlier that you saw. I'm adding that Art Nouveau swash element for a decorative border to put around the E of Eden. And I hand drew this on my Wacom tablet just so it kind of has that organic feel to it. So I'm pretty much messing around with the stroke, and I ended up just going with a uniformed line and having the color palette the same as the main E. Just bringing the border a little closer to the E so the design is a lot tighter and clean. I'm also trying another variation that I had in my sketchbook that I kind of liked as well, and I wanted to play around with it to see if I liked it and if it worked. So again, I'm on my Wacom tablet just drawing out the little decorative elements. And after reversing the style and kind of adjusting it, I decided I didn't exactly like how the E looked with the decorative elements on the side. It looked better plain. And I also checked to see if I liked the emblem E with 4 different things around the border of the E. And now this, I'm just creating patterns for Eden that I plan to use on later for the packaging design. So I took the logo of Eden and I made it into an offset pattern. Making a clipping mask on top and having the brand colors with it. That dark green was probably my favorite color because I used it a lot. I felt like it really had that organic and earthy feel to it that I was trying to convey the most, so I used that color a lot in most of my designs. Now I did end up liking the full border of having the decorative elements all around the E instead of just 2 sides, so I ended up sticking with that one, doing another clipping mask for that pattern in that dark green. And then I made another pattern, yet again with the other alternate logo of Eden, with another offset of the emblem. And just putting that clipping mask again, so it's a lot easier to see the pattern that I'm going for. Now after I did that, I ended up wanting to see how the logo would look like on top of different types of photography that I got that was royalty free, just to kind of start lightly working into the other branding elements. So I'm just testing it out on different types of backgrounds, like the spa set that I showed you. There's also the summery beachy elements from earlier. And also that full skincare feel and the touch of elegance. So afterwards, I'm just gonna go back and look at all these images and see which one best fits the brand. Some of them I ended up nixing out because it reminded me of like more vacation-y instead of skincare, so you'll see those later that I ended up choosing. Now after that, it is on to making the illustrative elements for the packaging designs of Eden, and I ended up doing this on my iPad instead on Procreate. So I took the picture of my sketchbook, I ended up dropping it into Procreate, and I pretty much just traced over it in the brand colors that I have on the mood board yet again there on the left hand corner. And I just ended up refining and, you know, finessing the illustrations, and afterwards I just kind of decided to have all the 3 main colors for the same illustration for each one, just so I can have variety and to test it out later once I ended up putting them into mock-ups. So I did the main flower one on the front side, and I did 2 of the different plants on the back side. And lastly, I ended up also illustrating that abstracted pebble pattern that I wanted to put in my other packaging designs, just to see if I wanted to use it for later as well. Once I had everything together, it's now time to go into Photoshop for mockups. So I ended up just pulling out all of the different elements that we already created together, which was all the patterns, the logos, the main one and the alternate emblem logos, and having the emblem logos as well as all the illustrative botanical elements. So I ended up having mockups of a storefront for signage. I also decided to have a tote bag, just as one of the promotional materials that you could purchase over at the store, or if they had a campaign event where they would give out free tote bags to customers, like the first 100 customers that purchase from their store. I also tried out different stationery designs, mock-ups. So this one here, I tried putting wall art to see how it would look like in a store. I also have this shopping bag mock-up, so if someone were to purchase something and needed the item to be placed in a bag so they can carry it around. I also tried it with different types of patterns from earlier just to see which one looked best. Since it is a high-end skincare store, I ended up also making a stationery mock-up of a thank you card that would include in with a shopping bag if they were to purchase something. Adding that little decorative element from the emblem logo onto the front side of the thank you card. So this is how it would look like. And I just reference back and forth just to make sure that everything fits correctly. I also did a backside to that thank you card that you'll see later. Now this is the one that took me the longest. I went ahead and made a mock-up of some of the products, the skincare products that the people can use and purchase. So for this one, I'm just trying to change all the fonts to be with my brand guide for Eden. And then I'm also adding the illustrative elements that I had earlier because I wanted to put that into my packaging designs. And while I was going through this, I also was trying to think about how I wanted the design of the package for the typography to go on. So I ended up just having the main logo Eden centered, but the main information I wanted it to be justified left. So as you can see, I am doing it right now. First one that I ended up doing was sunscreen. So I know I said I wasn't going to focus on sunscreen. This was like a slight focus. I figured I might as well just put a sunscreen thing just for the summertime. So I have that in there, making sunscreen that orangey color to, match more of that sun and heat and warmth. And I also made sure to have the fluid ounces and milliliters at the bottom, as like the weight content. So once I had a good frame of how I wanted the direction of all of the packaging to look like, it was pretty easy just implementing them into the other skincare things that I wanted. So like the skincare cleanser. But I did want to see if maybe I tried a different botanical illustration, separated from the sunscreen and then the other skincare stuff, like moisturizer and the cleanser. But I ended up choosing, just for continuity, I ended up using the same flower botanical illustration all around. I changed the originally hand cream to just a face moisturizer because I thought that fit better. And again, I'm justifying all of the text over onto the left side. For this one, I put the logo Eden on the left side as well instead of center, just because it looked more pleasing to the eye, and also it kind of gave more room. The last thing that I ended up putting the mock-up for was the bath salts. Just slightly tweaking things again for better space. And then I'm just trying to find the best color that matches for, you know, the pumps and the caps of everything, which I ended up going with the dark green. Now once all the mock-ups are done, it is now time for the final reveal of everything that you may have missed earlier when I was working on the computer, since I did have more designs and patterns, and to have a better view of all of the mock-ups that we worked on together earlier. So these are the drafts of the logo of Eden with the mood board and the other color palettes. This is the final logo with the alterations in different colors, as well as the emblem logo. These are some of the patterns that I ended up going with and finalizing. This is the final illustrations that I made for Eden. Now some of the photography from earlier of the backgrounds that I wanted to use for Eden. This is a better look of the storefront. And here's the tote bag design I ended up going with. Wall art for inside of the store, along with the photography from earlier. Shopping bags for people to use when they exit the store after purchasing an item that has the patterns of Eden. Here is the thank you card for the front and the back, again with the photography. And my favorite part of the whole mock-ups, here is the full skincare brand set. As you can see, I ended up making a little bit more continuity with everything of the sunscreen with the skincare cleanser, as well as the moisturizing cream and the bath salts by having the cap green like everything else and changing that orange flower to the green flower.
If you like this video, make sure to give this video a thumbs up and just comment down below, you know, what you thought of me designing this whole entire brand from scratch. I had a lot of fun making it and seeing what I could come up with it. So yeah, just let me know in the comments. Also, if there is any type of logo you'd like me to redesign, just let me know also in the comment section below, because I do have a series on that and it's been a while since I've actually done a redesign of a popular brand. Also, if you really like this channel and you really like the content that I put out, you can support me on Ko-Fi by buying me a coffee. It's a one-time payment and helps me out with this channel as well as my other platforms, so I can keep consistently creating creative content for all of you. The link will be in the description below and I'll greatly appreciate it. Alright, so thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already so we can keep hanging out, and I shall see you in the next video. Bye!